Hey guys, it is Mo coming at you. I hope you are all doing well today. It is Saturday the 3rd. Uh bear with me. I'm not feeling that great today, but we are gonna just on with the show. So today we're gonna talk about the Twitter files. It happened yesterday as Elon promised. What he is dropping is similar to like a WikiLeaks drop info from Twitter. It was all dropped by this guy, Matt Taibbi, author of Griftopia, The Divide, The Business Secrets of Drug Dealing. I'm going to do this fairly quickly so that it doesn't take an hour. For those of you who are semi-awake, not much of this will be of a surprise to you. How the big media companies have been manipulating what we see for a long time. However, it does show um some things that could have changed the 2020 election had we known. So let's start. It started at 6:34 yesterday. I did have recording. There was like a little chat room over here that had Kim.com in it and a bunch of other blue check marks discussing the things as they came out. But I'm just going to read them to you and break them down as we go. Um, it's much easier this way. They were being dropped like 5 minutes apart yesterday, so it was kind of a slow drop. And there are going to be more dropped later today. What you're about to read is the first installment in a series based upon thousands of internal documents obtained by sources at Twitter. The Twitter files tell an incredible story from inside one of the world's largest and most influential social media platforms. It is a Frankensteinian tale of a human-built mechanism grown out of control of its designer. Twitter, in its concept was a conception, was a brilliant tool for enabling instant mass communication, making a true real-time global conversation possible for the first time. In an early conception, Twitter more than lived up to its mission statement, giving people the powers to create and share ideas and information instantly. As time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters. Slowly, over time, Twitter staff and executives began to find more and more uses for these tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech as well. First a little, then more often, then constantly. If you are not one that has ever tried to post against the official narrative, you won't know this, but if you dropped anything that was remotely against what the left was preaching, you had your account taken down. I had my account taken down. I had thousands of followers. I actually just got it back 2 days ago. After appealing many times, there are some people that haven't gotten their accounts back yet. I appealed years ago and then just gave up on it and started a new account. I mean, the same thing happened with my YouTube account. And you spend years trying to build these accounts. I had just gotten monetized at the time. I made like $23. You don't make much off of YouTube videos, especially if you don't have a huge following. I made like 23 bucks and then my account was taken down. And so I never got my $23. So where'd that $23 go? If you take $23 from a million people, it's a lot of money you're making. Not to mention they take a third off of any of the super chats or anything. While I'm saying that, please subscribe to my channel. It makes a difference. Hitting the thumbs up button makes a difference in the algorithms. And please consider supporting the channel. I have not given a lot of personal information about myself, but I am a nurse by training. I have a bachelor's degree in nursing. I was a hospice nurse for many years. Last year, I had a serious health crisis that has put me out of work for a long time. And any help is greatly appreciated. So back to the Twitter files. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back handled. Now, these are some tweets. You can't like copy and paste them, but Kim.com was actually in the chat room yesterday, and he checked out all of these tweets, and apparently they were all pictures from Hunter Biden's laptop. So this entire thing is about Hunter's laptop being coming out to the public, and Twitter scrambling to not have it released to the public. If you don't know about shadow banning is another thing that Twitter uses, where they don't technically suspend you, but they kind of hide you so that no one ever sees your tweets. And it's happened to all of us. If you go to your analytics, I can actually see where I was getting 24,000 impressions per day, which is people seeing your tweets, and it would drop down to like 300 a day. Same thing happens on YouTube. Celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. And we have an email here. I grabbed the first one under SI. Defer to the safety on the high profile second one. And here's one from Real James Wood, who's an actor, and Stephen Lujan. I don't know who these are from. I don't think he's said yet. Number 10, both parties had access to these tools. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. However, this system wasn't balanced. It was based on context. Because Twitter was and it was overwhelmingly staffed by people on one political orientation, there were more channels, more ways to complain open to the left. And you can see the contributions by party of recipient. So Democrats, you can see the percentage that went to the Dems in 2022 and 2020, and the amounts: $451 to Republicans, $165 to Dems, $114 to Republicans, nearly $1 million to Dems, and $11,000 to Republicans, $300,000 to Dems. The resulting slant in content moderation decisions is visible in the documents you're about to read. However, it's also the assessment of multiple current and former high-level executives. Words were being dropped in the chat room yesterday, such as treason and other things by these blue check marks that were discussing it. Okay, there was more throat clearing about the process, but screw it. Let's just jump forward. The Twitter files, part 1, how and why Twitter blocked the Hunter Biden laptop story. On October 14, 2020, the New York Post published Biden's secret emails, an expose based on contents of Hunter's abandoned laptop. And I will open this just to... So, Hunter's secret emails. Hunter Biden introduced his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, to top executives. Is that how it starts? At the Ukrainian energy firm less than a year before the elder Biden government officials in elder Biden pressured government officials in Ukraine into firing a prosecutor who was investigating the company, according to the emails obtained by the Post. There is a video of this with Joe Biden at the Council of Foreign Relations, where he basically, there was an a prosecutor in the Ukraine who was investigating Hunter Biden. And Joe Biden is up on stage and said the United States was about to give aid, I think in the form of $1 billion to the Ukraine. And Joe said, I told them, if you don't fire this guy, you're not going to get $1 billion. And you want to make a bet. Very cocky. And the guy got fired. The never before revealed meeting is mentioned in a message of appreciation that Vadim Pustarski, you're going to have to excuse my butchering of the language, an advisor to the board of Burisma, allegedly sent Hunter Biden on October 7th, 2015, about a year and a half after Biden joined the Burisma board at a reported salary of up to $50,000 a month. If you're not familiar with this story, Hunter Biden, no experience working in an energy, was hired by this Burisma company, a Ukrainian company, and he was making $80,000 a month in a field that he didn't know anything about. You're going to have to do your own research on this. I'm not going to go into it. It's been all over the news and it will take me too long. Or maybe, as I always say, I'll do another video on it, although I don't usually get around to doing those other videos. Twitter. Am I recording? Okay, I am recording. That's always great when you find out you're not recording. Twitter took extraordinary steps to suppress the story, revoking links and posting warnings that it may be unsafe. They even blocked its transmission via direct message, a tool hereto reserved for extreme cases, e.g. CP. White House spokesman Kayleigh McEnany, was locked out of her account for tweeting about the story, prompting a furious letter from Trump campaign staffer Michael Hahn, who seethed, "At least pretend to care," for the next 20 days. So clearly we're 20 days before the election. And Kayleigh McEnany tweets a story and gets locked out of her account. Election interference. Kayleigh McEnany has been locked from her account for simply talking about the New York Post story. All she did was cite the story and firsthand reporting that has been reported by other outlets and not disputed by the Biden campaign. I need an answer immediately on how she will be unlocked. I also don't appreciate how nobody on this team called me regarding the news that you'll be censoring news articles. Like I said, at least pretend to care for the next 20 days. This led public policy executive Carolyn Strom to send out a polite WTF query. Several employees noted that there was tension between the comms policy teams, who had little less control over moderation, and the safety trust team. So what you're going to see now is a lot of back and forth between the different departments. Some people didn't think this was cool at all, while others were, trying to cover. So this is at Carolyn Strom wrote, "Hi team, are you able to take a closer look here? Thank you." Strom's note returned the answer that the laptop story had been removed for violation of the company's hacked material policies. "Hi, Carolyn. Thanks for reaching out to us. Per checking, the user was bounced by Site Integrity for violating our hacked materials policy, adding them here for further insights and guidance. Elaine Ong Sato." Look at what her title is: Ops Analyst, Global Escalations Team. My goodness, that's sounds like a military title, doesn't it? Not someone who works for a social media company. Although several sources recalled hearing a general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, there's no evidence that I've seen of any government involvement in the laptop story. In fact, that might have been the problem. The decision was made at the highest levels of the company, but without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, with former head of legal policy and trust Vijaya Gade playing a key role. Again, I might be destroying names. I'm sorry. They just freelanced it, is how one former employee characterized the decision. Hacking was the excuse, but within a few hours, pretty much everyone realized that wasn't going to hold, but no one had the guts to reverse it. You can see the confusion in the following lengthy exchange, which ends up including God, I don't know, and former Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth. Comms official Trenton Kennedy writes, I'm struggling to understand the policy basis for making this as marking this as unsafe. I should have done this with pictures. I always learn better if I have a picture of what the person looks like, because we're getting a lot of names thrown in here of people we don't know. But 10/14/2020, New York Post, Hunter Biden laptop article. Privileged and confidential, our teams continue to investigate the origins of the material included in the reporting. Now, don't forget, when this first came out, Rachel Maddow and all the mainstream outlets were characterizing it as Russian disinfo, this, that, and the other thing. Turns out everything on that laptop was not. Trenton Kennedy, I'm struggling to understand the policy basis for marking this as unsafe. And I think the best explainability argument for this externally would be that we're waiting to understand if this story is the result of hacked materials. We'll face hard questions on this if we don't have some kind of solid reasons for marking the link unsafe. And he tweeted all these people. Katie Rosenborough. Will we also mark similar stories as unsafe? And then there's a Fox News story. Hunter Biden's email, Senate Homeland Security Committee investigating hard drive laptop. By this point, everyone knew this was effed, said one former employee, but the response was essentially to err on the side of continuing to err. Yoel Roth. So they're going, you can see all these back and forth. The policy basis is hacked materials, though, as discussed, this is an emerging situation where the facts remain unclear. Given the severe risks here and lessons of 2016 election, WikiLeaks, we're erring on the side of including a warning and preventing this content from being amplified. Vijaya Gade, what is the warning that will come up? Yoel Roth, new. When you click the link, you'll see the generic unsafe URL message, references spam, malware, and violations of the Twitter rules. Not ideal, but it's the only thing we have. So have you ever clicked on a link and gotten that big red page that said, this link is not safe to go to? It kind of gives you a little scare, like you're about to enter, get a virus on your computer or whatever. You know, this is the kind of things that they were using. So Ian Plunkett, whatever we do in the comms, this will become a biased claim for Jack pre-hearing immediately. Let's make it clear we're proactively but cautiously interpreting this through the lens of our hacked materials policy and allowing the link with a warning and significant reduction of spread. So what I view this as is just plotting. How are we going to block this story, and how are we going to cover our asses while we're doing it? Former VP of Global Comms Brandon Borman asked, can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy? And that's what it says. To the Ian's point, can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy? As part of our approach to addressing potentially hacked materials, we are limiting visibility of related stories on Twitter while our investigation is ongoing. To which Deputy General Counsel Jim Baker again seems to advise staying the non-course because caution is warranted. Now, Jim Baker, there is a James Baker that was a higher up at the FBI that was involved in the Hillary Clinton email scandal. I don't believe this is the same person, but I support the conclusion that we need more facts to assess whether the materials were hacked. At this stage, however, it is reasonable for us to assume that they have been and that caution is warranted. There are some facts that indicate that the materials may have been hacked, while there are others indicating that the computer was either abandoned and or the owner consented to allow the repair shop to access it for at least some purposes. We simply need more information. A fundamental problem with tech companies and content moderation, many people in charge of speech care little about speech and have to be told the basics by outsiders, to wit. In one humorous exchange on day one, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna reached out to Gade to gently suggest she hop on the phone to talk about the backlash regarding speech. Khanna was the only Democratic official I could find in the files who expressed concerns. And he wrote, generating huge backlash on the Hill. Happy to chat if you're up for it. So now we have congressmen getting involved. Gade replies quickly, immediately diving into the weeds of Twitter policy, unaware Khanna is more worried about the Bill of Rights. I know I'm not pronouncing his name right. I apologize. Thank you for reaching out, and we appreciated the heads up. We put out a clarifying thread of tweets earlier this evening to explain our policy around the posting of private information and linking directly to hacked materials. The press secretary's account was not permanently suspended. We requested that she delete the tweet containing material that is in violation of our rules, and her account is restricted until she complies. I'd be happy to jump on the phone if helpful. My team in DC are copied here and also available to discuss. Khanna tries to rewrote the conversation to the First Amendment, mention of which is generally hard to find in the files. Hope you're well, Vijaya, but this seems a violation of the First Amendment principles. If there is a hack of classified information or other information that could expose a serious war crime, and the New York Times was to publish it, I think the New York Times should have that right. A journalist should not be held accountable for the illegal actions of the source unless they actively aided the hack. Now, I want you to think about Julian Assange here, because he's still sitting in jail for posting, and the DNC emails that he posted have been proven to have been downloaded by a DNC staffer known as Seth Rich, allegedly. If you don't know the story about Seth Rich, he was a Bernie bro, but a DNC staffer that was murdered one night. But they said it was a botched robbery. It was 3 a.m. in Washington, D.C. His keys weren't taken. His wallet wasn't taken. His watch was not taken. He was rushed to a hospital where Donna Brazile and her girlfriend, the mayor of Washington, showed up at the hospital. How did they even know he had been brought to the hospital? I don't know. He was still alive when he arrived at the hospital, but died shortly thereafter. And it is a very interesting story because Julian Assange has hinted that Seth Rich was indeed the one that sent the materials of the WikiLeaks DNC drops. Anyway, those DNC drops prove that Hillary Clinton had been communicating on non-secure servers and a lot of other incriminating things. But back to this story. So to restrict the distribution of material, especially regarding a presidential candidate, seems not in the keeping of the principles of NYT versus Sullivan. I say this as a total Biden partisan and convinced he didn't do anything wrong. But the story has now become more about censorship than relatively innocuous emails, and it's become a bigger deal than it would have been. It is also now leading to serious efforts to curtail Section 230, many of which would have been a mistake. Section 230 deals with whether or not Twitter is a publisher or not. And it deals with putting controls on social media. Was discussed years ago, hasn't been discussed much yet. I believe Twitter itself should curtail what it recommends or puts in trending news. And your policy against QAnon groups is all good. It's a hard balance. So it's okay to censor, certain things, but certain things we shouldn't censor. No, that's not the way it goes. If you believe in First Amendment, you believe in the First Amendment. Free speech is free speech. And I just want to say this about Kanye. Probably shouldn't have waited this long to say it, but I didn't like Kanye for a lot of years. And then I did start to like him. And the reason why I liked him is because he speaks truth and he was revealing things about Hollywood and other things that I find very interesting. Hollywood has always been one of my areas that I cover because I think there is a lot of symbolism that goes on. There's a lot of dark things that go on there. Harvey Weinstein being the tip of a very big iceberg that moved on to Kevin Spacey, Danny Masterson, and a whole list of other people. So when Kanye went on Alex Jones yesterday saying what he said, I don't agree with what he said, but I agree with his right to say it. And I'm going to tell you why. He spoke words. And those words, I'm sure, hurt a lot of people, but they're talking about a thing in the past. But there are people whose actions are far, far worse than anything that Kanye could have said. There are people in our political system who are doing horrible things, sending yours and not, I don't have children, but other people's kids off to war to be killed for no reason. Telling us that there's weapons of mass destruction when there aren't any, leaving the borders open when we know that child trafficking and drug trafficking is going on. There have been many, many, many politicians on both sides of the aisles that have been involved in some sort of child or adult, crimes against humanity. I'll just put it that way. But in the heat of a presidential campaign, restricting dissemination of newspaper articles, even if the New York Post is far right, seems like it might invite more backlash than it will do good. But please keep this communication between us and Jack, and no need to CC the team or forward to them. Just want to offer my 2 cents. So I do give props to this Democratic senator congressman who is actually concerned about free speech. Although I don't agree with, I don't think they're very well informed about QAnon. Most people don't even know what QAnon is. QAnon is not a person. There's an entity named Q, and then there are Anons, and they are 2 separate things, but that's for a different day. Okay, within a day, head of public policy Lauren Culbertson receives a ghastly letter report from Carl Sabo of the research firm NetChoice, which had already polled 12 members of Congress, 9 Republicans and 3 Dems from the House Judiciary Committee. Yesterday, NetChoice Chris Marchese met informally with 9 Republicans and 3 Dem House staffers to gather intel about Facebook and Twitter and the New York Post stories. So, this is the first I've heard also about about the New York Post ever being far right. I don't believe they're far right. Net Choice lets Twitter know a bloodbath awaits in upcoming Hill hearings, with members saying it's a tipping point, complaining tech has grown so big that they can't even regulate themselves, so governments may need to intervene. This has been an ongoing debate for a while. High level takeaway: every Republican says this is a tipping point. It's just too much, and both Democrats and the Republicans were angry. That's the thing. Twitter has been named a public square, I believe, by the Supreme Court. Sable reports to Twitter that some Hill figures are characterizing the laptop story as tech access Hollywood moment. Not really sure what they mean about the access Hollywood moment. Although I'm tempted to Google it really, really quickly. Let me see. Hate to keep you waiting. Talk amongst yourselves. All right. I don't get it. The only thing I could think of on Access Hollywood was the time that Bill Riley flipped out. I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments below if you know what it means. And let me know your thoughts on this as well. Twitter files continue. The First Amendment isn't absolute. Sable's letter contains chilling passages relaying Democratic lawmakers' attitudes. They want more moderation, and as for the Bill of Rights, it's not absolute. What they mean when it's not absolute, they use the same example all the time. Just because you have free speech doesn't mean that you can go into a movie theater and yell fire. This is not what this is about at all. The Democrats, meanwhile, complain that the companies are inept. They let conservatives muddy the water and make the Biden campaign look corrupt, even though even though Biden is innocent. They linked this to Hillary Clinton's email scandal. She did nothing wrong. Okay. But because the press wouldn't let the story go, it became a scandal far out of proportion. I urge you to go read those emails because there's plenty of different things to read in there. Like one where she says she's going to go in her backyard and sacrifice a chicken to Moloch. Moloch is a god from the Old Testament that people used to sacrifice their children to. Yeah. In their mind, social media is doing the same thing. It doesn't moderate enough harmful contact. So when it does, like it did yesterday, it becomes a story. If the companies moderated more, conservatives wouldn't even think to use social media for disinformation, misinformation, or otherwise. The Democrats were in agreement. Social media needs to moderate more because they're corrupting democracy and making all truth relative. When pushed on how the government might insist on that, consistent with the First Amendment, they demurred the First Amendment isn't absolute. I think it's pretty clear. The left is okay on free speech as long as it's saying what they want it to say. And if it's not, they want it blocked out. And they have succeeded in doing that for quite a long time. There are so many people that were eliminated. They had their platforms eliminated, not just here, but on other video platforms and other places as well. Kicked into the corners of the universe, never to be found again. And I'll tell you, I had thousands of followers. When I got my Twitter account back yesterday, I had 900 followers. So I don't know if all those people got kicked off or where they went. It's really weird. An amazing subplot of the Twitter Hunter Biden laptop affair was how much was done without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey and how long it took for the situation to get unfucked, as one ex-employee put it, even after Dorsey stepped in. There are multiple instances in the files of Dorsey intervening to question suspensions and other moderation actions for accounts across the political spectrum. The problems with the hack material ruling, several sources said, was that this normally required an official law enforcement finding of a hack, but such a finding never appears throughout what one executive describes as a whirlwind 24-hour company-wide mess. Hi, owls. I think that is pretty weird that they call them owls. I don't know why. If you do, let me know in the comments below. But owls does have a significant meaning to the cabal. As you probably are aware, Twitter action tweets yesterday relating to two. When I say actioned, let's replace that with censored, and it will make it easier to understand. Twitter actioned tweets yesterday relating to two New York Post articles that were tweeted out that allegedly included pictures and screenshots of emails from a laptop that allegedly belonged to Hunter Biden, presidential campaign, Joe Biden's son. Our teams made the determination that the materials fall under our hacked materials policy, in addition to sharing personal information. So links were actioned. As you may know, the existing policy framework was launched in 2018 to mitigate real-time harm based on hack and leak scenarios coming out of the 2016 election. So right before the 2016 election is when we got the WikiLeaks drops that really did incriminate HRC in a lot of things, and I think probably had a effect on the election, if you ask me. Several high-profile accounts, including press outlets, were impacted by this decision and were actioned. So looks censored. I'm going to replace it myself when reading. Unfortunately, the language that was provided in the product may have created confusion, indicating the links were spam or unsafe. Consequently, Twitter Safety explained the reasoning here in a thread. This morning, the New York Post tweeted additional links to stories that contain pictures and screenshots of emails that we also censored. The teams determined that a Trump campaign tweet that previously was censored for containing PPI would not be censored when it was retweeted with the PPI blurred. I also don't know what PPI is. If you know, let me know in the comments below. I know there are questions that you probably have and are also probably getting a lot of incoming from stakeholders, government, academic, civil society, etc. The last 24 hours certainly has been a whirlwind with lots of curves and unknowns, and we fully expect that the issues surrounding this matter will continue to swirl in the coming days. So thank you to everyone for your patience. It's been a whirlwind 96 hours for me too. There's much more to come, including answers to questions about issues like shadow banning, boosting, follower contents, the fate of various individual accounts, and more. These issues are not limited to the political right. Good night, everyone. Thanks to all those who picked up the phone. Okay, I want you to know that in that little chat that I was in yesterday, there was a guy there that said he was in the military for a long time. I think he was a little bit of a higher up, and said that if his kid was ever busted doing drugs or anything like what happened with the Hunter Biden, don't forget on that laptop were also details about his Barissimo deals. Tony Bobolinsky, you can Google him, is a whistleblower on that. About the cuts, about the big guy getting a 10% cut, and also other things. So this guy was saying if his son was involved in anything like that, his security clearance would have been immediately pulled. And I know from people that I know that are in the military, if I'm filming something and I'm discussing the government, he cannot be in the pictures and will not discuss it. He will never, ever discuss anything that goes on with, with work that could potentially compromise his clearance. That is how most people treat their security clearances. So that's the end of the tweet. So just to surmise, they were trying and they did cover up the laptop story. But just like every story that they try to cover up, in the end, the truth always prevails. And so we have Elon Musk tweeting 18 hours ago handled. 9 hours ago, Twitter servers are running at warp 9. Tune in for episode 2 of the Twitter files tomorrow. So that would be today. So hopefully that wasn't too long. I made it as quick as possible. Let me know. I'm gonna continue down the road. I think that Kanye started us down. I want to cover Peter Nygaard. I want to cover, some other things, but I just don't know how much is going to be tolerated, and I don't want to get the boot again. So anyway, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a good day. Peace out. God bless.